Well, during a rare Sunday session, the Senate advanced a $95 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and other countries. But it faces opposition from former President Donald Trump and the Republican-controlled House. And there is also some concern among Democrats when it comes to how Israel may be using the aid. Senator Chris Murphy spoke with Margaret Brennan yesterday about this.
But yes, there are many of us who believe that it is very important for us to make clear with this aid package that if Israel is going to use these dollars to perpetuate this campaign inside Gaza, it has to be done in a way with less civilian life being lost. I think that's important to members of Congress. I know that's important to this administration.
Scott MacFarlane is joining us now with a little more on this. So I suppose it's some good news. We're seeing some progression in the Senate, but clearly not everyone was in favor of this bill. So can you talk to me a little bit about the concerns for some Democrats and some Republicans?
I think the bigger concern comes after the U.S. Senate is done. Pretty overwhelming vote in this procedural vote on Super Bowl Sunday. 67 senators in support of moving this toward likely approval as early as tomorrow or Wednesday. $95 billion, much of it for Ukraine. This is on a trajectory toward passing the U.S. Senate. But what happens next when it would have to move over to the U.S. House, where a majority of the majority, most Republicans have said they do not support more aid for Ukraine? So the question becomes, Anne-Marie, is this the U.S. Senate speeding toward a dead end, or is this the U.S. Senate speeding toward a wall it's going to knock down and free up the House to get this thing through? There'll have to be some type of third way. The House Speaker will have to change his inclinations and give this a vote on the floor. Well, there'll likely be overwhelming support from Democrats, or there'll need to be a procedural technique attempted by Democrats and some Republicans to force this on the floor. That's where the drama lies after this moves through the Senate midweek this week.
And of course, this is a long way off from the original conversation, which had, foreign aid paired with money for the crisis at the border. So that's just out of the conversation. There's still a lot of disagreements over the border. Throughout this weekend, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas weighed in, and he called on Congress to fix the crisis. I want to play some sound.
The data that you cite is a powerful example of why we need legislation to fix what everyone agrees is a broken immigration system. The system has not been fixed for 30 years. A bipartisan group of senators have now presented us with the tools and resources we need, bipartisan group, and yet Congress killed it before even reading it.
Now, I don't know how much influence the secretary is going to have because he and the Democrats are gearing up for another attempt to impeach him. What more can you tell us about that?
That could happen as early as tomorrow as well. Republicans are bullish. They now have the votes they need to do this. They came up short last week, but they have a returning member who'd been out undergoing cancer treatments. Steve Scalise of Louisiana, the House Majority Leader. So if they can tee up this vote with the right head count, they are likely to prevail by just one vote, but that's sufficient to trigger the House impeachment of Alejandro Mayorkas. Talk about dead ends, though, Anne-Marie. That's headed nowhere in the U.S. Senate. The Democrats in charge of the Senate may even be able to block the holding of a trial and snuff this thing out quickly. But it does accomplish a political goal for Republicans. They return the conversation to border security, which is where they want it in this election year, and they take dings at the Biden administration in the process.
Really interesting, Scott. Thank you very much.